Hey everybody, welcome to episode 4 of Destroyer Academy. Today we're going to be talking about solo play. I have a few videos here, pre-recorded streams, um, or not, let's just say pre-recorded, but streams from before, um, that I have saved that exemplify some of the do's and don't do's of, solo playing in a DD. So here we have one of my Velos games, and this ended up being a very good game for me, uh, in terms of supporting and whatnot. I kind of go over the build that I have in this video for those of you that may or may not have Velos. Velos is a tier 8 destroyer that was a premium that came out of a campaign late 2024, I believe in October of 2024. But it's a boat that it's a pan-European destroyer with 4 guns that we only get one torpedo launcher, but it reloads at like 35 seconds, depending on what build you have. I have torp build on it because of the fact that the guns are okay. This was before the buff that it got um, later in the year, and the torps are just phenomenal. They hit really hard, and they're pretty fast. So one of the things that I want to talk about is positioning. Um, you saw early on that I was looking at the ship layout of my team. Where everyone spawned in, where they're going, constantly looking at the map. And also, in solo queue, a lot of times I don't like to use my mic with people that I don't know because, some of them will be playing music or whatever. So I just have that turned off. But I just let them know with the communications wheel how or what I'm going to be doing. So I'll point at somebody and I'll let them know, hey, I'm going to give you smoke. So I point at them and then put smoke. So I gave the cruiser behind me smoke. Uh, it just so happens that the cruiser behind me is Colbert, which is a legendary tier cruiser, French cruiser that shoots incredibly fast and has a very annoying to battleships. Now, if I could get to the edge here and spot for him, he's going to have a great game. All about positioning, where you want to be. Obviously, you do not want to be close to islands. Like I said, I have a torp build on it, and I said in the episode 1 that you do not want to be near islands. This is as close as I kind of would want to get, but because I have a cruiser basically right behind me, I spot the DD here, and let me just unmute the audio here, but I'm just gonna kind of just have that going in the background a little bit. But you see the cruiser shooting at him. Now I'm looking. The destroyer in front of me, understanding, you got to understand who you're going against. The destroyer in front of me is not doing a great job of positioning a ship. Like I said, see how fast those shells are going from the Colbert? It's over with for him. Always bring the fight to you. I mention this every single time. I did not overextend. I wanted to spot whatever was coming this way, and I do have twist and track, which is that fingernail that I was talking about at the middle of the screen that kind of shows you the nearest ship. It's a generic locate or sorry, a general location of where the nearest ship is. It's not a specific location. But if you notice, he was unspotted, so I had to get around that smoke screen to spot that battleship for my cruiser. Now I'm just watching my cruiser the entire time, making sure that he's not making any mistakes positionally, and he's doing a great job. Now I notice a destroyer for their team is spotted. It's spotted in the middle, so I'm going to launch torpedoes to where I think he will go. The more you understand the game, the more you're gonna understand, like, how fast a destroyer is, and you're going to become kind of like a mind reader, and sometimes it pays off and sometimes it doesn't, but everything's a gamble in life, and you just have to kind of, roll with the punches. Now, one thing I will say is, as a torpedo guy myself, I'm looking at this battleship and I'm turning with him. I'm not turning the other way because I don't know where he's gonna go. I want to turn with him so I can see where he's gonna go. Like, let's say I turned the other way and the battleship just kept going straight towards my team. then I would not have been able to hit him with torpedoes effectively enough because his stern is facing me. I want to be broadside to those battleships with my torps, so I hit as many as possible. And I ended up being pretty successful here in the lead. Now, obviously, the cone tells you where to shoot your torps at, and because my torpedoes are, I'm within 6 kilometers of this guy, I'll be able to hit him pretty effectively. So he's going to be gone here. And that's how you effectively eliminate your enemy without taking any damage. Don't fire your guns when you don't need to.
Always fucking turn, or like, you know what I mean?
Now at this point, the only thing that can be like the nearest target to me is going to be the Holland,
Go back to the Colbert.
or could be the Holland at this point. He could be going in front of the Colbert. The Colbert does not have radar, so the Holland can get pretty aggressive. Now, understand a lot of these ships you guys might not have when you're first starting out, okay? But this, this academy is for anybody that's trying to learn destroyer. So some of you guys might have those battleships or might have those cruisers. You just might not have any interest in destroyers up until this point. So I'm just showing you, kind of like when you're playing solo, when, I think 40% of people do, you're gonna, maybe, that's probably way higher, actually, not 40%, maybe 40% division, 60% solo.
No. You're gonna get clapped.
I'm looking at my destroyer here. He does not have smoke. He's broadside to 2 battleships, but if you look on the map, it's a little off-centered or offset because there is an island there. He gets very fortunate with those shots. So what I'm going to do is go back, and my smoke has reloaded, and he's going to get beached here. And I knew that was going to happen because he wasn't going to make that turn. So I'm going to smoke out and help him out because he offers me protection. Okay? When you protect your teammates, they can protect you. Otherwise, you're not going to have anybody on your team to do anything. But you do notice that their team's kind of going down one by one. This map tends to be lopsided at times because people just don't really know how to play it correctly. But if you look at the top right corner of the mini-map, there's a 4v2 happening. Yeah, so my team is basically conquering this entire map and just having very good map control.
Holy shit.
So I saved this Colbert from, be able to fight another day, and our battleship was able to get some shots on that broadside Montana, which I'll finish off here with torpedoes. The Colbert did get hit, though, for 15k, so I'm always monitoring the health of my teammates, because that does take into effect if you, whether or not you overextend or not. Because if you don't have teammates that have a lot of HP and you push with them, you're overextending right there because right now you're not at an advantage. But I'm watching everybody, watching what they're doing, and keeping them spots. Like that Colbert ends up having a very, very good game. Napoli goes down, and now it's an 8v4. So the game is basically over at this point. But you see how I supported a random. Like, without even communicating with them, I let them know, hey, I'm going to help them out. And they ended up having a very, very good game.
It's tough because it's not necessarily a winning.
Alright, so here we have a game in my Khabarovsk, a legendary tier Russian cruiser. Sorry, basically cruiser. A Russian DD. And we end up spawning on the far right side. This is a great side to spawn in with the Kaba. It's open water. So I was very fortunate with the spawn. So here I'm spotted because my Kaba has a 6'9" concealment. I see the guns from the Conqueror blazing, and as I stated in episode 1, you want to stop and turn, and it helps you stop faster when you're turning. I just noticed that's one of Spartan Elite's fleet mates, Blackester. Get a fire on the Conqueror and 2 salvos, which is very fortunate. Trying to see if he's running a perk called Fight Fire with Fire. So, right now I have the backup of 2 battleships behind me. and they haven't really shot at the Conqueror yet. Part of it had to do with the fact that in Charlie, it's being capped by 2 destroyers. Now, at the time, we don't know this, but, you know, right now, I am using my range and my DPM ability to kind of get the Conqueror to shoot at me. Now, once I go out of range here, then I try to get back into the fight as soon as I can. Notice that I did not extinguish those fires, just in case there was a second fire that popped up, or torpedoes that hit me for a flood. So I want to make sure that, you know, nothing hits me with a torp or sets a fire or nothing like that. So here we have a Z44 that gets a little brave with me for whatever reason, and I'm a much better gunboat than that is. That's a torp boat. And I try to angle away because he's using AP shells, and the Khabarovsk has very, very good armor. Notice I took out over half his health already, and he barely did anything. I set a fire on him, it ended up being permanent because he already used his damage control party. Now I see where he got hit, so I'm trying to hit him again. It's a very good practice to kind of pay attention where your shots hit, in case you want to, you know, hit more shots. Now, notice I get spotted again, and I know it's from him. But what I'm going to do is, my torpedoes are not very, they're not very, like, long range. They're kind of slow. They do hit hard. But I'm just going to, since I'm spotted, I was like, I might as well shoot at the Conqueror then, and get him to shoot at me. I do have 1 heal remaining, so I did launch those torpedoes as a self-defense in case the DDs decide to push me. So I'm kind of luring them towards me. And at this point is when I realize there are 2 DDs, because the Z44, he could have rotated into Charlie, which he ends up not being there at all, because he's on the right side of Charlie where my torps hit, and he's gone. But I realized that this other destroyer may or may not be a Shimakaze, according to what the leaderboard was saying. Or the scoreboard, sorry. Now this is the torpedoes from the Z44. And there's the Shimakaze. There are just too many torpedoes, man, that I was like, there's no way it's just 1 destroyer. Notice this Shimakaze has 3 bars of health. That is a stealth build or full torp build boat. I end up getting hit by the Conqueror. But if you just notice here how I'm playing this, you know, the first game that I showed you was a torp build. This is a gunboat build. I'm shooting my guns at the right time. I'm not, you know... If there were like 4 battleships over there, I wouldn't shoot. Because it's just the Conqueror. I was gonna say just the Conqueror. But because it is the Conqueror and that's all that's over here, in terms of what can hit me from range, the Conqueror shells are pretty slow. They do hit quite a bit, though. So I want to also be careful of when I'm shooting. You know, always go unspotted when you can. I've already set 10 fires on him. And I'm just looking at the map right now. I'm looking at, okay, what can be over here? If I decide to shoot at the Conqueror, is it going to be a true 1v1, or am I going to have to... I just got the Wither medal there from taking, I think, was it 40% of a ship? Or 60% of a ship's health with fires? So right now, I'm not shooting, I'm not spotted, and I'm capping the base, getting those XP points, but more importantly, getting the second cap, because there is 1 more destroyer out there, and he could take out my entire team. I have no idea, so I want to make sure that I put us in the best position possible to win. I don't want to just keep shooting and damage farming when I could be capping the base. Now that I capped it, I feel free to fire, and there's no threat to me whatsoever. The other ships are spotted, and I kind of fast forward a little bit here, probably to the next fire. But now I see the Schultz is spotted. Get a fire on the Schultz. I'm just looking at my team. I was hoping that that Z44 would have hit a torpedo at least before he went down. Looking at the trades, now it's a 2v1 if that battleship to my left decides to fire. But now the Conqueror is there and I'm broadside to it, but he's not shooting at me. He's looking at the battleship on my bow. They end up getting my 14th fire of this match, and here comes the shells from the Delaware, which I knew that was coming, and now the Schultz using HE, which is interesting. But anyways, that does it for this video. One of the things that I will end off on is, positioning early game is going to be incredibly important as a destroyer player, and I know I talked about it in the first and second episodes about making sure that you're spotting for your team early on and letting them know what's up. Like I understand that you're in solo and you might not be able to communicate effectively, with your teammates. Some of them don't use mics, but use that weapon, the communications wheel to your advantage and let them know, hey, I'm spotted. Or if a destroyer early on says I'm spotted, a lot of times that means that they are located. We don't have a locator thing on the wheel, so that'll probably something like that might be getting added to the wheel. There's just a lot of things on the wheel to look at too. I don't know how much more they can add to it. Is what I'm trying to say. So early game spotting, smoking out your teammates if they need it. Obviously, if you're in a gunboat and you want to smoke up, you got to make sure that you have teammates that are already spotting or already shooting so that they're spotted. Spotting for you to be able to shoot. Mid game, you're gonna make sure, just like said, throughout the entire phase of the battle, look at your teammates, look where they're at, look where you need to be as a destroyer player, because you're gonna be able to um, move ahead of them, move behind them. You're going to be able to reposition, and your repositioning is incredibly important because you relay information to your team quicker than anybody else. Obviously, that's next to carriers. Late game, depending on how the game is going, if it is close, make sure you stay in the game, man. Don't let the mental drain happen when you're able to clutch. Play all the way to the whistle. Don't give up on a match. Do the best that you can throughout the entirety of the match, and make sure that, like I said, you're always in a position to fight, and don't um, put yourself out of the fight, put yourself out of position, overextend. Always have support. Bring the fight to you, and make sure that at any given time, you have the advantage. And if you don't have the advantage, get to it. Get to a position where you are at the advantage. So, anyways, take care of yourselves. I will see you guys on the next episode where we talk about division play, and that's going to be episode 5.